Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good? Still awake? Surely, right? With women empowerment, you're always awake, right? Yeah. Okay, so may I know how many of you are startup companies or intending to start your own company soon? Can I see a raise of hand? Few of you? Okay, great, right? So this topic here is really talking about how can you create a bit more of sustainable strategies and also how important it is to embed the ESG, environmental, social, and governance into your strategy so that it becomes much more growth-oriented. So for that, today I have two very, very pertinent speakers here. The first one I would like to introduce Muzaffar Sulaiman, the co-founder and CEO of EverSustain. Well, this company is very interesting, as it helps enterprises in Asia to measure, manage, and report on carbon footprint. So he talks to me about carbon accounting. So I'm pretty interesting to know more. Yeah, come. Next, also I have Tengku Omar Ashraf. Yeah, the principal of Atom Ventures, a venture capital management company. Yeah, so I'll leave it to them to introduce more about themselves to all of you. Okay, so I will start with you, Muzaffar.
All right. Hello, everyone. So is it an introduction for myself? Oh, sorry. Right. My name is Muzaffar Sulaiman, and I'm co-founder and CEO of EverSustain. So what EverSustain is we are building the software infrastructure for carbon accounting. So we basically, So we basically help companies. We basically provide ingredients for companies to start managing and building their carbon management software. So a little introduction of my kind of life experience. So entrepreneurship experience. So I started another company in 2021. It's called Startup. So what we do is we provide e-commerce. We build e-commerce platform for digital founders. And we sold that company in late 2022. So after that, we just like, okay, what's next, right? So that's when we started EverSustain.
Very interesting, yeah. It's very seldom that nowadays you see startup companies that is able to incorporate social, environmental factors into the model itself. I think this is EverSustain is a very interesting company, and we're eager to hear more from him later, yeah? What about you, Omar?
Thanks. So my name is Omar for Art Ventures. We are sharing about my entrepreneurship journey, also venture capital journey. So I started my journey in the startup world back in probably 2014, 2015. So I started an equity crowdfunding platform licensed by Securities Commission Malaysia. A few years after that, I joined Avanat, doing a lot of ecosystem building in relation to VCs, private equities, and especially limited partners as well. Moving on, I think started in 2020 during the COVID period. Started Jana Capital. It's basically like a fund initiative by the government of Malaysia to invest in local venture funds. So during that time, we deployed around 8 funds, approved around 47 investments within 2 years. And moving on now, I've joined Art Ventures. So Art Ventures is a venture capital firm. It's an impact venture capital firm. So current investment that we have is called Tip Venture Fund. It's a field tech and visual tech fund. Predominantly, we focus on seed investing in fintech and also insurtech. So we've done 8 investments today. We're looking to complete 13 by August this year. So this is just a bit of my review.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Omar. You see, ESG is not really new in Malaysia, so to speak. But I think the adoption rate is relatively low as compared to most of the developed countries, or even developing countries, right? There are, of course, several factors that are affecting the adoption rate. But it's important for us to know also for startup companies, all of you here, right? How relevant ESG is it into your formula to success? Yeah, when we talk about in Ever Sustain, we are looking into embedding even ESG into the software used by companies, right? So can you explain to us, Saifah, how exactly it is related to software used in the company?
Right. Okay. Basically, advertising is only covering a fraction of ESG, which is environmental, and even focusing on carbon management. So, environmental could be for waste management, animals, and stuff like that. So, what we focus on is carbon management, which is basically companies, they need to know their carbon footprint, right? So how much is that they need to calculate. So they need to measure, and we can do measurement by using Excel. We can see, okay, business activity. Let's say you spend 1 liter of petrol. So this is how much if we calculate that into carbon footprint. So it's a lot of work if we consider like every single business activity we need to calculate that. It's a lot of work. So why we need software is to automate that. So we just translate. So one of the part that we can do for carbon accounting is we use spend base. What it means by spend base is how much you spend on something, how we can calculate that into carbon emission. So basically, with your financial accounting, using some method of calculation, we can translate that into carbon footprint. And yeah, we don't want to calculate every single business activity. So we need software. So that's why we comes in. I'm not an expert in sustainability or even carbon management. I'm not. I'm the tech guy. So we are working with someone which is an expert in sustainability and carbon management, and we just build the software. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you also can share a bit, to the startup companies here. What is the benefit of able, for them to come up with this kind of carbon accounting? So if I get a sustainable accounting numbers, so what? What does it translate to what actually?
Right. So the reason why you need to measure your carbon footprint is because one day there will be tax on carbon. So that one part, mostly we don't want to spend a redundant fund or redundant money for something that you can tackle right now. So why not we just take care of that, we minimize the carbon footprint and avoid paying the tax. So another option is basically to help we need to live on Earth for a long time. So let's try to do something good about it, right? So basically in ESG, you try to do to be a good person for environmental, for social, and for governance. So just be nice to everyone, because if not, they won't like us, and then what's going on with us? So yeah.
Okay, great. I have another positive question actually, but I'll come back to you later. Yeah. Okay. Omar, you also mentioned, right? Definitely ESG is something very important and well off in the financial sector, right? And that's where Securities Commission came out with the guidelines. It's not really a regulatory framework, so to speak, but it's guidelines that requires the reporting of ESG in most companies, right? How will it really impacting the startup here to get investors in that case if they're able to report ESG?
So I think echoing from Uzaifa's mention about data, it's about reporting, right? For us, I think from the regulatory point of view, there's no such requirement yet per se. But for us internally, we do it, we impose it to our portfolio. So just a bit of context. Before we start investing into the company, we will start measuring the impact of the company. So our focus is two things. Number one is the social part. The other one is governance. Since we invest in fintech, in insurtech, this is a very important component, right? So before we do invest, like I said, we'll look into the social aspect in terms of how are they impacting the communities. Are they impacting underserved communities, or would not getting funded, underbanked, uninsured, right? Something along that line. And then after we invest in those, so the monitoring period, and we'll send them questionnaires and surveys. And the outcome of this questionnaire surveys will be reported to our investors. So PCs also have investors, so we have to share this outcome with them. So it's a compulsory thing. I think a top-down approach is very important in terms of reporting and getting ESG to be incorporated in some way in the startup companies. So for us, it's actually we enforce it to our portfolio. Means we enforce it to the agreements. We enforce it to all the conversation that we have to ensure that they align with us before we invest. To ensure they can be comply with us when we invest in it. So yeah, so this is a strategy that we do, and it's very important that the companies who are buy or to pitch to us that they understand this process.
Okay, I understand that you are also in the investment committees, right? Where you do some assessment of previously. So if the startup companies is able to really get themselves engaged in ESG, or maybe just one component of the ESG, let's say E only, not the S and G, will it make a difference for them to get the investors' attention?
So I think it depends on the stage of your company, right? So if you're early stage, I think it's okay. Means your company just started and whatnot, because you're not putting so much resources into the monitoring and measuring it. But I think to a certain level, you need to start adopting more. It's software, policies, and all these other things that will help into providing the quality of the information, right? So something like what Zaifa is doing is very important as well. So it depends on the stage of the company. But when I was the City Investment Committee, I think there is a section that we require the VC to tell us how do you measure impact is doing and what do they do. So I think when the company to a certain size, so we invested, I think the biggest company we invested was Zenbit back then. So it's a $3 billion company out of Indonesia that have presence in Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines. So they measure it from everything about environment, social, and also governance. A bit high on the G side because they are regulated activities, means they are regulated with every market that they're in, with the central bank and whatnot. So a lot of emphasis on that. Their value proposition is S. So the thing is, a lot of people think reporting is big has just a matter of reporting. Actually, for fintech, S is very important to solve a problem statement in the market. Fintech at the moment is more trying to get the society to be upskilled, right? To be more inclusive, right? So a lot of fintech companies nowadays really emphasize on the reporting of S being a pitch deck and when they're fundraising or just done to share.
Okay, great. So let's we sort of understand a bit of the fundamental rationale behind, right? Why ESG is important, especially for startup companies if you want to raise some capitals from the investors. Let's look into a bit more in the business side. Usually when we talk about, even when we talk about CSR in the past, right, and it evolves into ESG eventually, most companies would not want to spend additional money expenditure on things that to them may not really create value to the organization, right? So that goes the same into ESG. As you mentioned just now, if, for example, one of the cost management way is to reduce carbon footprint, and therefore they use better materials, and it will cost them higher. So how do you weigh the benefit between, the ESG versus cost increment, for example?
Right. So basically, the question was, you're gonna spend a lot of money if you want to implement ESG, and if not, it's gonna ruin your company, right? So what I can say is that implementing ESG doesn't mean that you're going to spend a lot of money. You can do CSR, but maybe not spending. You can just do the work, but not you don't have to spend money. And also, if you try to manage your carbon emission, right? So let's say you use this kind of energy, let's say electricity. At first, you don't know that you spend this much, let's say. But then, after you calculate your emission, after you understand how much you spend on electricity, you will realize that you are using maybe like 40% of how much you pay. Just mostly like they just basically turn on something and you just leave it there. You didn't realize that you can save money on that. So I'm focusing on environmental part, carbon footprint. What I can say is that usually you are not spending more. You're actually saving more. So yep, that's what I see.
Great. So the benefits weigh over the cost increment in doing so, right? So then come back to in the private capital market, right? If for investors to listen to the pitching from the startup companies or the VCs, and there are 2 pointers here. Very good presentation and key pointers on ESG implementation for the company. Vice versa, the P&L doesn't look very nice. So how do you weigh then as an investor?
So I think for us, early stage VC, so we invest in seed and VC, right? So typically the P&L doesn't look that good. But the way that we look into it is the projection and the team and the impact that they're going to do. In terms of ESG, a lot of people don't know this, but in Malaysia, there's a few startups starting to incorporate SDG goals into their pitch deck. So what does it mean is there's 19 SDG goals, right? You can incorporate some of it into it and trying to reflect on your activities. It's free. You don't need to pay anyone to do it. For me, that's the first step into it. Then from there, when I look into the deck, I will say, okay, they're impacting here and here and here. So we give you some idea in terms of the business model, give some idea who your target market is give some idea on what problem statement we're trying to solve, right? So to be honest, it kind of serves a greater purpose other than just a badge in your pitch deck. It kind of gives the idea what they're actually doing. So regardless of the P&L, I think we're in this industry because of the risks. We can take risks, and at the same time, we can value add to counter that risk, right? I think ESG wise is if you can adopt ESG, some sort of reporting and on ESG, a lot of investors are more comfortable. So you kind of like minimize all this, because people like us will think in the future there's more other ESG investors are looking to start businesses.
Okay, great. So you're really talking about future risks as well, right? Instead of just what you're talking about, the lower P&L at the moment. Okay, thank you very much. 2 wonderful panelists here, Omar and Saifah. Thank you so much. And have a good evening, everyone.